Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of r/slash entitled people. In today's episode, woman demands I give up my seat. I'm in a great spot and feel bad about it. Bus driver, 50 plus M, thought I, 25 M, should jaywalk for him and now has a weirdly intense beef with me after I refused. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Woman demands I give up my seat. This happened during the long weekend at an Easter party at my cousin's house. My 16M dad and I had arrived early and I managed to snag the armchair that's isolated from the other seats. This armchair was optimal for me, being I'm antisocial and introverted and I hate being touched unprompted. The other seats are couches and bar stools at a bench. More people arrive, great and fine. The woman, we'll call her B, who usually sits in the armchair, comes up to me. I don't know how old she is, but she's way older than I am, and pretty rich too. B, can I sit there? Me, stares at her because WDF? B, could I sit there?
Me, air.
She never even said please. I didn't want to say no not to be rude, but I also didn't want to say yes because I'm sitting there. B, there are plenty of seats. She looks around at the other seats and points to them to make a point as if that logic doesn't also apply to her. Me, imagine. B, you could learn some manners. I was flabbergasted at this. I didn't even say anything. B, you could use them someday. Me, yep. She walks away. I whip out my phone and message my friends about it because, what? Then she has the audacity to go up to my dad, right in front of me, as I'm messaging my friends. B, your son was really rude to me. Dad, really? He looks at me then back to B, yes. He won't let me sit there. Dad looks at me again as I try not to burst out laughing because she sounds like a child dobbying on another child. Oh, B, he has no manners. Dad, oh well. B, you should teach him some manners. Dad, he actually injured himself pretty badly and can't really walk. I told him to sit there. Father coming in clutch for me and lying to her face. B, oh, if I had known, I wouldn't have said such things. He just had to let me know. Then she starts kind of babying me. I'm pretty sure at some point during the conversation she asked my dad to tell me to move. Overall, it was a bizarre experience and I sat there for pretty much the entirety of lunch. As I said, she started babying me and I felt gross about it. I asked my dad for literally just a cracker with some dip and she dove right in and said she would get it for me even though I asked my dad. Then she grabbed my shoulder into a death grip and told me she would do whatever I needed. That I could always come to her. I felt even less bad about not giving her my seat because of this. When my dad and I left, he asked me what happened and I explained it, while laughing, of course. He said because she's rich and so much older than me, she thinks she's entitled enough to ask younger people for things and expects to get it. ETA. I'm going to try and summarize things I've said in comments and clear anything else up. It seems people didn't read the part where I said there's other seating options. The couches were the exact same height and material of the armchair. I have seen her before get out of the armchair without using the arms as support. I never usually go on my phone during parties, and I'm usually berated when I do. I just needed some people to share this moment with. I've also seen someone say I'm not antisocial because I have friends. These are online friends, and I have a way easier time making online friends than IRL friends. All my IRL friends either approached me first or were friends of friends who approached me first. I wasn't mocking her when I laughed about it when my dad and I left. I tend to laugh at awkward and uncomfortable situations, which that was an uncomfortable situation for me. I have fully acknowledged I could have been nicer by not umming and erring and instead give her a solid answer. I tend to script conversations in my head beforehand, and her asking me this was not in my script, so I froze up. Yes, it was a simple yes or no question, but that was also the very first thing she said to me besides a quick hi to everyone when she first entered the room. I greet everyone with a smile, and I tend to keep that smile until the end of the party when we've left. I don't mope around, waiting for the end of the party. I would rather be at home, but it's family, and it would be extremely rude for me to mope. Respect is earned, not given. If she were more polite, I would have said yes. If there were no other seats, I would have said yes. Hell, I would have offered it before she asked. I never asked my dad to lie for me. I would have preferred if he didn't lie. No one else asked about my injury, thankfully. What's done is done, however. She's elderly, which is defined as anyone 65 and over. I don't know her exact age, however, but I'm guessing she could be around 65 to 75. I couldn't have dragged a bar stool into the corner or be in another room, just playing on my phone because that would be rude. You were there first. I'm one of the older people in my family and disabled. When I go to my brother's, there is one chair I prefer to sit in. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. If someone is already sitting there, I find elsewhere to sit. She was the rude one. If there were no other seats, I would have given it up, but she was also the one to point out there were plenty of other seats. This may also be a generational issue. I am older and was taught that it was polite to stand to greet somebody when they entered a room for the first time. Obviously not family at home, but visitors or people at a home I was visiting. This applied to anybody who didn't have trouble standing. It was also expected that younger people would take the less desirable seating if there was somebody older or less able in the room. Nobody really thought about it, but a teenager choosing a comfortable seat when an elderly person came in would definitely have been considered rude. Even now, I would automatically offer my seat to somebody less able than myself if other seating in the room was not as suitable for them. I gave up my seat to a pregnant woman on the F train going from Midtown to Brooklyn once. She was, in fact, not pregnant. I got off at the next stop due to embarrassment. My ex was offered a seat on Disney monorail last weekend and was horribly offended that someone wearing a baby deemed him old enough to deserve a seat. Best pixie dust at Disney ever. I'm in a great spot and feel bad about it. I'm 30, married, expecting a baby. We're healthy. Moving into a new big, beautiful house a few months before the baby is born. I can afford nice things. I can work from home. My job is wonderful. My husband is the most amazing man I've ever met. We both work very hard for our lifestyle. My husband is an only child and his parents do well and are very generous. I have a hard time being around some friends because they are not as fortunate as my husband and I are. I have a hard time being around my parents because they were never in this position. My mom snubs her nose when I show up wearing nice clothes or if I look nice. We don't brag, we don't show off. But it's hard for me to talk about what's new when people ask what's going on, because my life is truly wonderful, and I know that's not the case of everyone in my life. But I don't want to lie and make people feel worse. I know that I worked hard for what I have, and I am grateful to my family that gave me the opportunities to be this way. But I want to talk about things on my mind with people that understand and live similarly. Anyone else feel this way? Your mother should be happy you're doing well. Parents should want a better life for their children than they had. I grew up poor, worked hard as an adult, and didn't have 2 nickels to rub together until I was in my 40s. All 3 of my kids have college degrees and own their own homes. I am happy they have all surpassed me in education and are doing well in their careers. I want them all to surpass my achievements and am very proud of them. I can't imagine being jealous of my kids' success. I think this goes deeper than you realize. Any good parents should be happy for you in this situation, and yet they aren't. I admit I don't care for fancy clothes, but clothes don't mean you're any different on the inside. This may not even be about the clothes. Either they dislike who you married, or they're jealous of your life and financial security. I mean, married, a house, a child, a work-from-home job, and a great husband. That's an almost unattainable American dream type situation these days. In situations like yours, I've heard of parents acting like their child has forgotten who they are when they do well after coming from poor or humble origins. And in many of those stories, the parents became guilting leeches that just wanted money. Keep moving forward, Opie. Either they will accept you, or they won't. But don't for a second let them make you feel guilty for doing as well as you are. You're not responsible for how other people feel or interpret a situation. Bus driver, 50 plus M, thought I, 25 M, should jaywalk for him and now has a weirdly intense beef with me after I refused. I don't know if I would call what he does bullying or not, but all I know is that he does not like me. I work at a university that has an extensive shuttle system around the campus and surrounding city, and as part of my commute, I take one of the many shuttles to the building I work in. There's an app that tracks the shuttle location and shows the stop locations too. Anyway, one day I was approaching the bus stop where I saw one of the shuttles sitting there, parked. The drivers often take 5 to 10 minute breaks at particular stops along their route, and when I looked at the app, it said the bus wasn't supposed to reach its next destination a few blocks away for another 10 minutes. So I figured I would have time to get to the crosswalk and cross the street to get to the shuttle. When I did and got on the bus, the driver, let's call him George, who is one of these fake manly Sam Elliott wannabes, scoffed and said to me, "You could have just cut across the street, kid. There was nobody coming." I told him that even if nobody was in the street, I wasn't going to jaywalk because it's dangerous. Common sense, right? George didn't think so. He laughed and warned me to not think I could take my sweet time catching up to the shuttle because he had a schedule to keep and was told to not waste his time. I asked him when he was planning to depart because I was going off what the app said, but he said it didn't matter because he could have been leaving at any minute and that I was lucky he let me on at the stop he was scheduled to be at that time. I didn't want to continue the stupid argument, so I just said I'm not jaywalking and took a seat. We ended up sitting at the stop for another 5 minutes before he left. So why tell me to do something that could have gotten me hurt? The next day I arrive at the same crosswalk, same time. There's George sitting parked in the shuttle across the street, waiting. He sees me and gets this weird smirk on his face. Despite the app saying he wasn't going to arrive to the next stop, 2 blocks away, for 10 minutes, he all of a sudden grabs the steering wheel and turns on his blinker, despite not being able to go until I crossed the street because he was at a red light. I stepped into the shuttle and he says, "What would have happened if I had drove off just now?" I look at him bewildered and just go, "I would have waited for another shuttle," before sitting down. He scoffs again and takes off immediately, making it to the next stop and sitting there for his break instead. The third interaction we had, he was ready to peel off, but the red light gave me the time it took to get across the street and approach the bus doors. He didn't even look at me when I got on, telling me rudely to sit down. I barely had a chance to do so before he started moving the shuttle. This time I plainly asked him what his issue was with me, since if I offended him in some way, I don't know what I did, and to that he said, "You waste so much of my time at the crosswalk, kid. You could just cross the street." I was genuinely confused and asked him if the bus schedule needs to be updated if he needs to leave that stop so urgently. He replied, "That's not the point. If I'm waiting, you hurry up, even if I'm not waiting for you." At this point, I realized I was arguing with someone who got some kind of power trip off of driving a shuttle. I told him that you should never encourage someone to break the law to catch a bus, and he just didn't answer. After that exchange, every time he sees me approaching the crosswalk to the stop, he suddenly ends his brake and drives away from the light the minute the light turns green. If there are other people at the stop with me, he'll scowl at me when I get on and act really put upon when other people thank him once he reaches their stop. It's so stupid. I've tried to memorize which bus numbers he drives, but with the university shuffling around employees due to various layoffs and funding issues, he's been surprising me at other stops. Sometimes he'll see me at a stop waiting and go or stop a couple of bus lengths away from the stop to make me jog to the shuttle, or will pretend to not see me at the stop if I'm alone and drive right past unless I wave him down. I have reported him to the university, but get no response other than they're looking into it. I have also started using other lines and stops than the ones he typically stops at, but like I said, he surprises me sometimes. My job is too far to walk from the bus stops my commute usually takes me, so unless I feel like running, the shuttles are the most viable option. Regardless of my options, I shouldn't feel victimized for wanting to ride a bus. It's just weird. Sounds like reporting him to the university might be in order. I have, and just get told that someone is looking into it. Whatever that means, who knows? Just go to the stop and wait for the next shuttle. If you get asked why you are late, say a shuttle driver is putting you into an uncomfortable position, so you have to avoid their shuttles. Don't specify those uncomfortable positions. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.